Welcome to the Medical Association of Georgia's award-winning Top Doc Show. With more than 8,000 members who care for patients in every specialty and practice setting, MAG is the leading voice for physicians in Georgia. Go to mag.org to join MAG if you're a physician in Georgia. And thanks to MAG Insurance Agency for its support as a sponsor.
Welcome to the Medical Association of Georgia's award-winning Top Doc Show. With more than 10,000 members who care for patients in every specialty and practice setting, MAG is the leading voice for physicians in Georgia. Go to mag.org if you are a physician in Georgia. I'm Jeremy Bonfini, the Executive Director and CEO of the Medical Association of Georgia. Today I'm joined by Dumeetha Luthra, who's the founder of Take Pause. Dumeetha, you built Take Pause almost a decade ago. What made you start?
Hello, Jeremy. Lovely to be on the show. What made me start Take Pause? I started Take Pause 10 years ago from a very random arc. I was a conflict journalist with the BBC. So I was broadcasting from Iraq and Afghanistan and a bunch of different places and seeing frontline and experiencing frontline stress all the time. So when I stopped doing that, I was dealing with PTSD, I was dealing with burnout, I was exhausted. And I started practicing mindfulness and calm breathing for myself. I was living in New York at the time. I started volunteering with an organization in the South Bronx helping kids. And I tried virtual reality at Tribeca Film Festival. And it got me thinking, breathing for kids in a way that they would want to do it. How powerful could that be? I went down the rabbit hole of virtual reality and saw that there was a lot of clinical evidence on how it helps. And so all of that brought it together and created Take Pause.
Great. Well, thank you, Dumeetha. For those in our audience who aren't familiar with virtual reality, tell us how it works. Who uses it? How does it work? And how does it prepare physicians or patients for what's ahead of them?
Got you. Okay, so there's two parts to that. One, virtual reality in general. So virtual reality has been studied since the 90s, and one of the earliest trials was with Hunter Hoffman. And at that time, headsets were so heavy, they were strapped to the ceiling, and the patient put them on. And Hunter Hoffman did a trial with burn victims and found that virtual reality, an app in virtual reality, during the burn changes of bandages, made morphine less necessary. So to put that a bit more elegantly, virtual reality reduced the need for morphine as they were changing burn victims' bandages. So, and since then, the studies have grown. Body dysmorphia issues, PTSD, exposure therapy. It's being used for a whole host of things. Now, what we're doing at Take Pause is we have combined breathing, which we all know is a basic mechanism for self-regulation, which we forget. Who hasn't been sort of breathing like this in fight or flight rather than the deep breathing? And imagine in a hospital, you're there, you're stressed, you don't know if you're about to go into a surgery or you've got a vaccination. So what we've done is created a system where you've got breathing practice and we've combined it with virtual reality. And the virtual reality provides immersion. So you're not in the clinic, you're in a calm, specially designed world. And then you've got a character, and all you're doing is breathing in and breathing out to the movement of the character, and it reduces stress. And so you've got breathing, virtual reality, you put them together, and you get, as we call it, a double dose of goodness.
Great. Well, I feel relaxed already, Dumeetha. Uh, Why is it 3 minutes? Why isn't it a longer session?
So we designed it for 3 minutes and we went through clinical trials with it for 3 minutes because we spoke to doctors, we spoke to staff in clinical teams, and workflow and time, everyone's in a rush.
Mhm.
An intervention that takes too long is just not going to be used. Even 3 minutes in some clinics can be way too long because the turnaround's so fast. We've got evidence that it works at 1 minute. We also have evidence that it works in longer situations, but we thought 3 minutes, and we found 3 minutes is the sweet spot where it can be used and it has a statistically significant impact.
Well, great. Well, is there anyone who shouldn't use it? And what do you tell someone who's concerned about motion sickness?
Right. So actually, the, there are exclusion criteria which we provide when we're installing the system. And it's things like if you've got a head injury, shouldn't use it. Motion sickness, what we found that doctors and staff do is they say to the patient, if you're feeling nauseous, just take it off. But
Mhm.
the way we've designed it is it's 3 minutes, there's very little movement. We've got very few contraindications showing that it creates motion sickness. But we have a proper guideline where we've laid out all the things that a physician or a clinic may be worried about, and then all the mitigations.
Great. Well, healthcare is all about evidence. So let's talk about evidence and take pause. You've had it in randomized trials in pediatric emergency and adult procedural care. For physicians who haven't looked at the space, where does the science stand?
Where does the science stand? So the science is quite profound at this point. That, as I said, the research started in the 80s, 90s. Now there is a whole body of evidence showing how virtual reality helps patients. And also we at Take Pause have a whole body of evidence. So we've got the two clinical trials that you mentioned, and the one in the pediatric ER, the control was a game on an iPad. And so we wanted to show that Take Pause is just more than distraction. It's actually helping the body de-stress. And we showed that 24% of patient, no, 24% reduction in stress. And that was in the clinical trial. And then we've got a lot of evidence through QI studies and posters that were done with Sutter Health, where they found 1 minute reduced stress. They found we improved the patient experience through improving patient scores, experience scores, and then we've got our own data portal. So when the patient puts on the headset, they choose a world, they choose a character, and then they choose how they're feeling from 0 to 10. So we get that self-reported stress level before, and we get that self-reported stress level after the 3 minutes. And what we found is that for the majority of patients, it does reduce stress. So I can tell you, pre-surgery, 75% of patients who use Take Pause reported a reduction in stress. In general pediatrics, 65%. So we've got it for specific use cases, and we've got ongoing data. So to recap, clinical trials show that it worked, and they're peer-reviewed and published. Then we've got QI studies, also independent, and they're showing impact. And then we've got our ongoing data. So anyone can always know if it's helping their patient population and to what extent.
Great. Does that include your multi-site projects at Sutter Health?
Yes.
Okay. So what did you find in the real world that you wouldn't have otherwise discovered in a trial?
Operationalizing it,
Mhm.
actually getting used. What we've seen again and again is so often research finds that something is helpful, but how that actually gets translated into being used by staff in a clinical setting in the real world, there's a huge gap. So we've been focused on integrating it into workflow, operationalizing it so that staff can use it when they need it for patients. So, for example, at Sutter, they've developed a standard of work where when they're grooming patients and identifying patients, they offer take pause, and they tend to identify patients who they think will be the most stressed, maybe because they've seen them before, or maybe because of what they're presenting with. But they offer it to patients. Then when the patient comes in, they're given take pause. So we've operationalized it into a process where it's less work for the staff because, of course, everyone's busy
Sure.
and
Absolutely.
life is tough.
Speaking of which, clinicians are very busy, and some of the clinical staff have used Take Pause themselves. What does it look like in settings where it's a clinician who's using Take Pause?
So the way we've set it up is we want patients to use it. We want patients, families and caregivers to use it, and we want staff to be able to use it. So it's 360 for the clinic. And we're hearing great stories where staff say, "Oh yeah, I was just so stressed at lunch and I just put it on and it was so calming and that was great." And so some staff use it before their shift, during their lunch break, or just when they've had a difficult patient and they just need to get away from everything around them.
Great. Well, I can see a stressed out patient and a stressed out clinician, both with the VR headsets on. So it's great to know that it works for everyone. Um, and you've already mentioned that they use Take Pause potentially mid-shift or after seeing a difficult patient or just having a difficult day. Let's talk more about patients. Everyone's concerned about pediatric health these days. And I know it's live in pediatric, it's alive in adult and surgical and mental health settings. Is there one setting where the impact surprised even you?
You know what? The impact often surprises me because it's something so simple and the impact so profound. And we get texts and messages and emails from doctors and staff where they say, "Oh wow, we're using it for gender care and it works. We're using it for blood draws and it works." And they just, each time they figure out how they want to use it and then they can see the impact. And to be honest, I know this all sounds a bit crazy, but every time it provides impact, it's just a real joy for me and a bit of a surprise because it's simply breathing.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
But
That's
one
great.
good story I've got sort of in relation to that. Well, I've got a few, but this is one of my favorites, is there's a kid who presents with three types of autism. It's nonverbal, and he has to go in for regular blood draws. And this is at one of the Sutter Health General Pediatric Clinics, where they've been using it for almost 3 years now. And before, the patient had to be held down for blood draws. It took two or three staff. He really didn't enjoy it. It was a really stressful experience. And now he comes in and the staff tell me he's in the experience, he's giggling away. It makes it easier for everyone to use. And his parent is sitting there and she's just so grateful and just really happy. So it's helping everyone. And at that clinic in particular, they've embedded it so well that now patients, when they're making an appointment, actually ask for it.
Wow, that's great. And as a father for one of those children who's had sometimes difficult experiences, and especially with a blood draw, I can really appreciate it. Healthcare is everywhere, though, and in some very challenging settings. Rikers Island, a large correctional facility, you're live there. You're also live in New York City Health and Hospitals. What does stress reduction look like in a difficult setting like Rikers, and what did you learn there?
So Rikers has been a really fascinating deployment. Essentially, they're offering it at Rosie's, which is the women's jail, and they're offering it as part of counseling for trauma-informed care. And it's a small pilot, but they have renewed it because they see the value of it so much. 6 patients over the course of 6 weeks in an hour-long counseling session. At the end, they would be offered take pause. And what they found was that these patients, before stressed, leave the counseling session back into reality, no transition. Now they have a moment where they're breathing, they can self-regulate, and it's their bodies telling them, okay, now you're about to step into the world. We're teaching you breathing so you can cope with whatever's out there. And that has been a really powerful tool that Rikers has really appreciated.
Absolutely. It's very impressive. Patient experience is important. We have got Press Ganey scores. Everyone's being scored for everything. How should physicians think about stress reduction as part of their patient satisfaction scores?
Well, a stressed out patient isn't a happy patient,
Right.
right? And a happy patient is going to be, an unhappy, stressed out patient is going to be finding fault with everything around them. Whereas if a patient feels calmer, they feel supported, they can hear what the doctor is saying, right? How often,
Mhm.
I mean, just me, I go into a doctor's appointment and then I come out going, I forgot to ask this, I forgot to do this. Oh my God. When I've taken a moment to breathe before, I'm just a lot calmer in the clinical setting. And for patient experience scores, that all ties in. Of course, there's so many other things that go into a patient experience score. For example, whether they even found parking or not. So we
Sure.
can't impact everything, but we
Mhm.
can reduce the perception of waiting time because they're in the headset. We can calm them down so they don't feel so stressed. And I'll let you tell me, what does the impact of stress on the clinical environment, like what's the ripple out for everyone, for the staff, for the patients, for the clinical environment?
Absolutely. And for the clinical shortage that we're experiencing in all areas of medical practice. So, and we rely on our independent physicians and our smaller groups that don't have a health systems infrastructure. What does it cost for the practice to start? And how do you view ROI for a small group versus a large health system?
We've only been in large health systems. So I think for a small practice, we would work with the practice to really define what ROI would be valuable. What we can imagine, given the small practices that we have spoken to, is there a potential upsell where they can offer it to patients as an added support service? And then
Right,
in terms of the pricing, I think I'd rather, I mean, for a health system, the way it works is it's $1,008 a month per system. And then they're using it across a whole raft of patients. And what that includes, and may not be necessary for a small practice, although we would still say it's probably valuable, is as well as the app, you get data. So you can see very quickly if it's worth the value that you're investing in.
right. It's very compelling. And I'm surprised someone didn't think of this earlier, Dumeetha. You're really to be commended to find a unique niche here to serve. Where do you see this going? In 5 years, will this be a standard tool in a hospital or clinic, or is it still the exception?
I see this as being standard. I mean, does this sound familiar? You're in your practice, you're hearing kids crying, you've got stressed staff, everyone's running around. It's exhausting. Now imagine here you have a patient, they're sitting there, they're breathing in and out. They're not asking for the nurse, they're not asking for the doctor, they're calmer. The environment is calmer, the staff are calmer. So, yes, I'd love it to be normal and a standard of care within 5 years.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Dumeetha. It's been great chatting with you. We have a few extra minutes. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience about Take Pause and where you and the company are going?
I think one of the things I'd like to share is that what we've seen is that Take Pause is being used across so many different settings. And essentially, what it is a breathing tool. And Take Pause provides focused breathing in environments when focused breathing is very difficult to do. And it allows the patient or it allows the user to be immersed so they can forget they're in a clinic. You don't have to paint the walls. You don't have to change the environment. The environment is changed for you. And that I think is really, really powerful and very exciting. And we look forward to seeing how it can help in different settings. I mean, at the moment, we're in before surgery, during infusion treatments, in general pediatrics, in mental health counseling, and we're also in discussions around women's health for the insertion and removal of IUDs and reducing pain around perception of pain around that. So really it can be used anywhere at any time. And that I think is really cool, given that.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, this has been really cool, Dumeetha. Thank you so much for your time. I want to thank our audience for watching this episode of Top Docs. Please share this program with your colleagues and family friends. And remember to follow MAG on Facebook and Twitter. And don't forget that you can get past episodes of the show at mag.org/topdocs. And from everyone at MAG, we look forward to catching up with you on our next episode of Top Docs.
Thanks for watching this episode of Top Docs. Please share this program with your colleagues and family and friends. Remember to follow MAG on Facebook and Twitter. And don't forget that you can get past episodes of the show at mag.org/topdocs. From everybody at MAG, we look forward to catching up with you on our next episode of Top Docs.